All right, folks, thanks for joining us. My name is Reverend Michael Willoughby. I am with the Climate Power Campaign. This morning, we are here to talk about the unique threat that Adam Laxalt poses to Northern Nevada. I've got two very special guests with me this morning. Very lucky to have Rob Benner, the Executive Secretary of the Northern Nevada Building Trades, with me, as well as Patrick Donnelly from the Center for Biological Diversity Action Fund. Thank you both very much for joining me. Rob, I think we're going to kick it off with you this morning. Welcome much for joining us. Can't wait to hear what you have to say.
Right on. Thank you for having me. So good morning. My name is Rob Benner, Secretary Treasurer of the Building and Construction Trades Council of Northern Nevada. Honored to join you this morning to discuss the critical importance of this election to Nevada's working families. My organization, the Building and Construction Trades Council of Northern Nevada, represents 6,000 workers in Nevada's union building trades. These men and women are iron workers, plumbers, pipe fitters, operating engineers, electricians, laborers, and more. We're used to working hard to support our families. In construction, our members are frequently have to commute a long way to their work sites. Gas prices are hitting them hard. So when we see profiting off the pain of Nevada's workers, we take it personally. At a time when Nevada's workers are struggling with the price at the gas pump, Adam Laxalt is raking in campaign donations from big oil. During his campaign for Nevada's U.S. Senate seat, Laxalt has taken in more than $200,000 from oil and gas industry so far. Laxalt also received $42,000 from the oil and gas industry in his 2014 campaign for AG and his failed 2018 campaign for governor. This last Friday, ExxonMobil morning reported its highest earnings ever at $19.7 billion for the quarter, while Shell and Chevron reported their second highest earnings ever. Adam Laxalt benefits from these corporations raking in record profits on high gas prices while Nevada's working families struggle. Laxalt also opposed the Inflation Reduction Act, which he falsely claimed that would raise taxes on the middle class and hire more government workers to harass Nevada working families. On the contrary, the Inflation Reduction Act creates good-paying union jobs that will help reduce emissions across every sector of our economy. The law includes some of the strongest labor protections and incentives ever attached to clean energy tax credit programs. The IRA will incentivize prevailing wages, help build clean energy supply chains right here in the United States, strengthen our country's manufacturing base, and encourage domestic production in clean energy technologies like solar, wind, carbon capture, and clean hydrogen. It will also penalize companies that promise to pay prevailing wages but don't follow through, and workers who are owed prevailing wages will receive the difference plus interest. In fact, a new report released by the University of Massachusetts found that the Inflation Reduction Act would create more than 40,000 jobs in Nevada over the next 10 years, including 24,280 jobs in Nevada from investments in clean energy, 3,340 jobs from investments in clean transportation, 6,480 jobs from programs to improve building infrastructure, 2,350 jobs from lands and agricultural program investment, 700 jobs from investments in environmental justice and community resilience, and 5,050 jobs from investments in clean manufacturing. Strong labor standards are the key to ensuring that we build back better with both economic and environmental justice. Building our state's future clean energy economy must go hand in hand with creating good-paying, transformational jobs that lift entire families into the middle class. We can't let Adam Laxalt waltz into the Senate knowing full well that he has big oil's best interests at heart, not Nevada's. Our state deserves leadership that we can trust, and that's on their side, helping to build our future. We don't need anyone representing us in DC that would take a stand against the creation of new jobs, bringing our state into the 21st century. Adam Laxalt doesn't care that how much you shell out each month to get your kids to school. He doesn't care if you're employed, and he doesn't care if you're putting a roof over your family's head. He has made it abundantly clear that he does not and will not work for Nevada's families. He only works for big political patrons. Our state deserves better. Thank you for joining us.
Rob, that was fantastic. I have a couple of questions for you, kind of about a little bit of context, right? Because we talked about the need for good jobs in Northern Nevada and the folks that you represent, right? And the kind of jobs that we're talking about here. So I think everybody here has a good enough memory to remember all of the kind of posturing around like, I built that and all of this whatnot. But you represent the people that actually build that. Like, this is what they literally do, right? When we're talking about new homes, we're talking about commercial stuff, we're talking about everything, right? If it is built, your people are the ones that are doing that, right?
Correct. And our job, these jobs, when you get into a union trade, get into a union apprenticeship program, these jobs are transformational, right? And it can bring somebody out of poverty, into the middle class within a couple months, just getting into one of our apprenticeship programs. So these jobs are transformational for a lot of people. And we need funding for infrastructure projects to be able to provide those jobs, because we can't bring in apprentices, we can't put people to work unless there's actually jobs out there for them to work on. So passing critical infrastructure funding and making sure that we have labor protections in the green new future is critical for us, so we can keep providing these high-paying, high-skilled jobs to Nevada's workers.
And these, again, are the exact same people that are going to be on the front lines of that transition, right? From where we are right now. You mentioned a little bit about needing gas just to get to the job site. Yep. We talked with another one of our labor brothers just a few days ago, who pointed out, it's not just even getting to the job site right now. On the job site, you also require you're building stuff. You are building out the infrastructure. So you need to bring that stuff with you. And oftentimes that means a generator, right? And those run on fuel. That's just how they work, right? So this is impacting not just getting to the job site, but the work being done at the actual job site as well.
Yeah, exactly. It's not just a little generator. I mean, with operator engineers. I mean, unfortunately, right now, a lot of that heavy equipment you see out on the job sites, it doesn't run on electricity. It's all powered by diesel, and they go through a lot of diesel to be able to grade those sites and dig those ditches and build these buildings. So it not only does high gas prices affect our members getting to the site, but it also affects the cost of these jobs when it all comes down to it, because they're also there's fuel costs, energy costs associated with these projects.
Absolutely. And and I'm just going to point out once again, every single one of those extra dollars, right, that's going to the price of gas, that's going to the price of diesel, those dollars are being funneled to people like Adam Laxalt, who isn't looking out for Nevada families. He's looking out for himself. The only two things he cares about are himself and getting those big oil and gas paychecks. So while we're all suffering, either on the consumer end, like you said, it adds to the cost of everything right now, just hauling things. to the job site, building everything and making sure that those sites run adds to the cost. So while Spectrum is paying the price, Adam Laxalt and his big oil puppet masters are profiting from all of this.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. I mean, when you look at what just these last quarterly profits, these companies brought in, I mean, it's just it's sickening to see how much they're bringing in, and supporting people like Adam Laxalt that's just going to protect them and make it even better when we're at a time when Nevada's workers, Nevada's families are really struggling.
Yeah, it's absolutely disgusting. And I want to point out also that, these profits are not, we talked about transitioning right away from gas and whatnot. And that, your workers are going to be the ones that build out that infrastructure. The modernization of that, this absolutely stands in the way of all of that progress, right? He is a roadblock, not just for the present causing pain, but causing pain well into the future, by tying us to this current situation, us from doing anything about it. It's worth noting that those profits that you talked about, those didn't go to modernizing those operations like we're talking about with our infrastructure and your people, right?
Yeah.
This went to stock buybacks, bonuses, and payouts. This didn't go to anything forward facing like the things that you were talking about with your membership. It's unbelievable.
No, exactly. They're these corporations, they're just give higher dividends to their stockholders, stock buybacks, bonuses, like you said. It's all they aren't using the money to put back. They're not putting the money back into their company to make their make things better. They're just cashing out their stockholders. And if we didn't have leaders like Senator Cortez Masto out there fighting for things like the IRA, we would be locked into that cycle of just huge corporate profits, go into the gas companies, so they can do just put it in their pockets without actually helping the situation going forward and lowering costs for Nevada's working families.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Thank you so much, Rob. I appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us this morning. Keep looking out for us up in Northern Nevada, and we'll talk to you soon, okay?
Yep, will do. Thank you.
Thanks. Take care. All right, up joining us is Patrick Donnelly from the Center for Biological Diversity Action Fund to talk about a different kind of threat facing Northern Nevada from Adam Laxalt. Patrick, thank you for joining us this morning. It's good to see you.
Yeah, it's good to be here.
Awesome. Go ahead and take it away. Can't wait for it.
All right. Well, thank you for having me. I'm Patrick Donnelly. I'm with the Center for Biological Diversity Action Fund. We are a nationwide 501c4 dedicated to electing elected officials with an unshakable commitment to the environment. And as such, it's important we highlight what they are up against. Adam Laxalt is a tool for the oil industry. He has taken $250,000 in oil cash in his current Senate campaign and has a history of taking lots of oil money, both directly to his campaigns and millions of dollars of dark money expenditures on his past campaigns from the oil industry. And he is beholden to the oil industry in his actions. Now, we got to be clear why this is so important. There's a couple of reasons. First, Nevada is experiencing climate change faster and harder than any other place in the country. Reno is the fastest warming city in America. Las Vegas is the second fastest warming city in America. And I think people in Reno really know what we're talking about. People who grew up in Reno say you never used to have air conditioning. No one had an air conditioner in Reno. And now summer days routinely top 100 degrees. And at times the air is so filled with smoke from the Sierra Nevada burning that you can't breathe. So I think people in Reno and Northern Nevada very much know what we're talking about when we say climate change is hitting hard and fast in Northern Nevada. And I think we can see this across the landscape, the public lands. Part of what makes living in Nevada so great is the incredible access to public lands, all the beautiful sagebrush and mountains that are part of Nevada's makeup. And these public lands are experiencing the consequences of climate change in a very significant way. This current drought we are in has been hammering our wildlife populations. We're seeing precipitous declines in mule deer, elk, sage grouse, other key wildlife species that are essential for making our public lands work, and they are suffering due to the ravages of climate change. And the science is clear. Climate change is due to the combustion of fossil fuels like oil and gas. And Adam Laxalt wants the oil and gas industry to do whatever they want across Nevada. When he was Attorney General, he fought against protections for our public lands from the oil and gas industry. In particular, the Obama administration tried to institute widespread protections against the oil industry on our public lands to protect the greater sage grouse. Adam Laxalt sued the federal government to overturn those protections for the greater sage grouse, to let the oil industry run wild across our public lands. And if you go out to the eastern part of northern Nevada, places like Pine Valley, Railroad Valley, you can see what happens when you let the oil industry run amok on our public lands. There's oil rigs everywhere. There's pools of poisoned water and aquifers that are at risk due to the oil industry. And we had a good example of what we're fighting for here when the oil industry tried to come on to Nevada's beloved Ruby Mountains. Surely folks in Reno and elsewhere in northern Nevada were familiar with this fight to save the Ruby Mountains from the oil industry. At the same time, Adam Laxalt was suing the federal government to let the oil industry do whatever they wanted. Senator Cortez Masto was introducing legislation to protect the Ruby Mountains from the oil and gas industry. So the difference could not have been more clear. And ultimately, due to Senator Cortez Masto's legislation, we were able to beat back the oil industry and to save the Ruby Mountains from oil and gas. But that was only because of a determined citizen effort and Senator Cortez Masto's swift action to protect the rubies. Meanwhile, Adam Laxalt was out there shilling for the oil industry, suing so that they could run wild all over our beloved Ruby Mountains. So I think we can see that there's a track record here of Adam Laxalt doing the oil industry's bidding in Nevada, while Senator Cortez Masto has taken a different approach and has demonstrated that she's willing to stand up to the oil industry. So we're really faced with a stark choice, and I think the choice is clear. You can either support the oil industry, support them destroying our public lands and raking in record profits while they raise prices at the gas pump, or you can support someone who has demonstrated a willingness to stand up against the oil industry, and that's what Senator Cortez Masto has been doing.
Absolutely, and I couldn't agree with you more. And Patrick, I'm so thankful that you brought up our public lands because, it doesn't matter where in Nevada you're from. I think that's something that unites us all. We love the natural beauty of our state, and we like to go out and experience it, right? In a number of different ways. Whether, I'm a photographer. So, of course, I love to go out and take pictures of the desert. I've been lucky enough to experience a herd of desert bighorns out at Gold Butte, speaking of public lands, and things that we fought to protect, right? And in light of actually what happened with some of those public lands during the Obama administration, and then what we saw post Obama, what do you think we could expect kind of for our public lands as far as that, whether or not we're going to be able to preserve that, or whether or not we're going to see what we saw during the Trump era, right, which was taking chunks out of designated monuments to try to open up to gas, to fracking, right? Let's just be honest what it is. It's fracking, and clawing back some of the things that we had already fought to secure.
Yeah, I think Nevada provided a very interesting case study in the importance of a congressional delegation. Trump was running around the Western United States with a sledgehammer, destroying public lands protections left and right. And I mean, I think folks who follow environmental politics know my organization doesn't agree with all of our Democratic congresspersons all the time, but having Congresswoman Titus, Congresswoman Lee, Congressman Horsford, and especially Senators Cortez Masto and Rosen, they formed a firewall against Donald Trump. And they prevented the worst of these things from happening in Nevada by saying, no, the people of Nevada won't go for this. And ultimately, the sort of overwhelming force of all that congressional action against Donald Trump spared many of Nevada's public lands from the fate that we saw in places like Utah and other Western states where the Trump administration really took a wrecking ball to public lands. And so, you know, if we put Adam Laxalt in there, if Adam Laxalt is Nevada's representation in DC, that's throwing the door wide open to the oil industry, to folks like Donald Trump, to destroy our public lands protections and increase resource extraction.
Yeah, and again, this is not just a personal thing here, right? There's the same people that tried to stealthily restart Yucca Mountain without even bothering to tell anybody in Nevada. These are the exact same crew of people that would love to be able to do that again. You know, for those of us, again, old enough to remember back that far, all of 3 years ago, when they attempted to stealthily just bring nuclear waste into the state of Nevada and told no one. But this is also a huge economic driver, right? This is not just that. It means sustaining, especially like rural communities, right? And communities that are near these spots, giving them a way to sustain themselves, right? By being a gateway to these places, and not destroying them with extraction, like we see so often now, right? In rural communities where extraction comes in, sets up shop, and starts to be the only way to make a buck in town, and the only way to survive, by exploiting the environment, right? We're talking about giving people a sustainable future where they don't have to choose between being able to survive, you know, financially and day to day, and the survival of their beautiful environment that's around them, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's a new economy across much of rural Nevada based on public lands and ecotourism, and that's driving billions of dollars of economic activity across the state. And I think people in northern Nevada know that very well because that's part of why people move there. Part of why people like northern Nevada so much is this surrounded by high quality public lands to go recreate on, to go seek spiritual renewal on, hunting and fishing and all manner of outdoor activities. And that is driving rural economic development across the state of Nevada. And I think, again, we can look at the track record here. You know, Senator Cortez Masto has done many things to boost outdoor recreation, to boost those ecotourism economies. Adam Laxalt's on record opposing public lands protections, opposing protecting the very thing that drives that rural economic development, and throwing the doors open to resource extraction industry like the oil and gas industry. So I think the track records speak for themselves as far as what we could expect for the future, depending on who wins this election.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree with you more. You know, that the past behavior is the best predictor of what we could see in the future. And the one advantage of the limited amount of time Adam Laxalt had with any kind of power in this state, before he went back to Washington, D.C. to personally cash out to the tune of millions by doing all of the things that we've been talking about privately. You know, we've kind of just been focused on the things that he did, you know, professionally in office here. But, you know, let's not forget that when he was soundly rejected the last time he tried this, you know, the place where he found his home was back in DC, lobbying for big oil and gas. He ran straight home to his puppet masters, you know, for a seat to be there and continue to extort. So this is something that he's done both professionally in his political life and personally in his professional life, as well. So I'm with you, Patrick. I think we got to believe him with what he's done and what he said, and take it at face value. Thank you so much for your time this morning, Patrick. Anything that you want to leave us with before we go?
I would just say a vote for Adam Laxalt is a vote for big oil.
Absolutely. I think you really said it best when you said that, you know, he is a tool of big oil. He is bought and paid for. He will do their bidding, period. Patrick Donnelly, Center for Biological Diversity Action Fund, thank you so much for joining us this morning. I appreciate you taking some time with us.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Thank you very much. All right, folks, you've heard it. Once again, Adam Laxalt is a threat to basically everyone except for his big oil puppet masters and their best interest. He is a bought and paid for tool of the big oil and gas industry and will continue to hurt Nevada's families in his quest for personal power and gain. Thank you very much for joining us. Have a wonderful day.